All right. We are live. Good to see you today, my EOS Podcast friends. We have Daniel Kimotho from EOS Nairobi, the world famous, globally famous EOS Nairobi, doing big things. So we're going to hear about, of course, all about interesting things in EOS and, of course, EOS Nairobi. So Daniel, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Oh, thank you very much for that introduction. First of all, I'm a big fan of the show, and I'd like to convey my greetings to the audience of the show. And thank you for your time if you're watching this. My name is Daniel Kimotho. I'm part of the EOS Nairobi law producer team. We are all resident here in Africa. Our infrastructure is set up here in Nairobi. And we are proud to host a community here and support the growth and the adoption of EOS into Africa. It's been a really inspiring journey. Having gotten the opportunity to participate in something global was really phenomenal to not only myself, but to the rest of the team and the community. I think it also encouraged a lot of people from within the continent to start engaging and start participating. And we have been seeing a flurry of applications that are coming up. People are building applications from here in Africa. We had a lot of people participating in the virtual hackathon, the Africa one. And we also got a couple of teams to go down to South Africa and participate. And they did a really good showing. And that has been, I think, one of the most profound moments that I have been able to experience as part of this journey within EOS. Being able to see some of the work that is being done by the community here, inspiring more people from around the continent, because Africa is quite huge and it has quite a diverse population and very big countries, 55 different countries. And now when people get inspired from all over the continent to start engaging with EOS, start learning how to build and start learning how to develop applications, it's really inspiring. It's really good.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I know that your team has been getting a lot of support because of how much community building you're doing. So I know that's a big plus for your team. So we'll get into all the different details of things EOS Nairobi is involved in. And then for the beginning of the show, I always start with what's most interesting in EOS right now, because EOS changes every day. So I have to keep asking. Every day something new is going on. So to you, what's most interesting going on in EOS right now?
Okay, so I'll just mention one thing because I think the most profound thing to me personally. So when I was getting into this blockchain space of the ecosystem, I was given an opportunity by a very amazing lady called Melanie Swan. She has written an amazing book and she runs the research center, the blockchain research center. Now, Melanie gave us the opportunity to start investigating and seeing how blockchain and crypto can be used in different settings and in different situations. And one of the ones that stood out for me was the DAC, or the concept of the DAC. At the time, the DAO hack had happened and it seemed like it had killed that whole idea. But recently, with what EOS DAC has done, releasing the DAC toolkit and make it really easy for people to just like plug and play. You can just plug in the toolkit and you have an entire DAC set up and running. And all you have to do is now just the little bits and pieces of governance. They're not little bits and pieces, they're quite some enormous work. But when you have a lot of people supporting it, it then builds this entire new thing that we have not been able to see, or rather that we only see within the larger EOS community. For instance, EOS itself is somewhat of a DAC, and now we get to build like smaller DACs. So EOS is a large DAC that spawns out smaller and smaller DACs. And now there's opportunity for people to now participate actively and get engaged, even financially. Within that, you get to participate as an owner. And that is a really, really big thing, especially with the way the world is going and the way opportunities are opening up on the online space. I think that's the biggest thing for me right now. And I'm following closely what EOS DAC are doing and what Telos DAC are doing. And I'm really engaged in research. And hopefully I'll be able to support the DAC that lifts off the ground.
Yeah, the DAC space is really interesting. I mean, that's one of my favorite block producers because they're pushing that space forward, and it's so, there's so much to do there. It's so new. We looked into having a DAC for a little while too, and it was just like this overwhelming. Okay. It was this overwhelming like process, and we were just like so confused. We're like, okay, let's watch EOS DAC a little bit longer here. But it's really cool. And I guess you were saying that you can consider EOS a DAC itself now because we have the voting referendum, so we're having some say over the governance of the chain. So that is pretty cool. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think just like you, even as we were waiting to see what EOS DAC would do, and we were just learning really closely. I remember in engaging Lux, just asking him to share whatever he has learned. But then when he recently released, I think it was almost everything that you need for DAC. It was really nice and really helpful to the ecosystem.
Mm-hmm. Have you guys, what do you think like the best application for a DAC would be right now, or where do you see it possibly being most useful in the future?
Okay. So based on my research, and I think it's also from my perspective of living here in Africa, we have things that we call chamas, or savings and credit corporations. So small savings groups of people, sometimes they can be very large, and they even buy out banks here in Kenya, for instance. In fact, 34% of our national savings is in these organizations called chamas. So they hold a lot of value where I come from, and I have seen them grow and to become really big and meaningful. They run a lot of transportation sector here and the banking sector. And these are just groups of people who come together and save up their earnings to the point where it grows to be very big and it compounds. And then they have the muscle as the people to make very big financial moves in the larger national space. Some of them have even grown out to become bigger banks that serve the greater area of Eastern and Central Africa. So from my standpoint and looking at the origins of crypto from Bitcoin, I see the best application for this technology comes in on the financial side, right? So if you are able to build something that earns revenue for the members and makes a profit for the people who are participating with you, and I think that will be one of the more meaningful things that the DAC can be able to achieve. And that is my point of view from my experience.
Yeah, that's true. The big picture idea of being able to be a part of bigger projects, or being able to put money into projects if you're not already in the States, we have to have accredited investors. So you have to make, there's this kind of outrageous line for a lot of people where they can't invest in a lot of things because they don't make enough money already. But the argument being that, like, if you already have money, then you're smart and you're smart enough to make these investments. But that's not really a direct correlation there. Obviously, there's a lot of people who are intelligent and can add a lot of value who don't meet the accredited investor line, so they can't invest. So I think that the financial area is a really cool application for DACs. I agree with that. That's cool. So let's talk a little bit about EOS Nairobi. I know your team's a big community builder, so you can just tell us a little overview of your team, and then I'll have some questions for you.
Okay. So EOS Nairobi got it was started when Ian Greg was around the country, around in Kenya. At the time, he also had a project that was starting the Chamas. It was called Chamapesa, and Chamapesa was gaining a lot of traction. They were holding a lot of meetups, and we got a chance to meet, and we got a chance to learn. And he was very free with the information, and he taught us a lot. And we got an opportunity to join the community, and we got to learn a whole lot from very many people there. They were able to bring us up to speed on the technology and bring us up to speed on governance, bring us up to speed on actually everything. And that's why I love the EOS community, because it's so helpful, and anyone joining in gets help. Anyone looking for information gets it with ease from people, and it just espouses the fact that we all learn. Like the learning process happens together. Like we all learn together. So you get to learn from something, and we get to learn from you. So so the community there was an existing blockchain and crypto community here in Nairobi. A lot of people had put in a lot of work in setting up a community. There were a lot of traders. There were a lot of people who were looking to invest in ICOs and the likes. But we didn't have a lot of people who were looking into building applications or developing them. So when we got to learn about EOS, and we got to learn about how it would be able to give users a good experience while they're building it. And at the time, I remember I had also got my little savings that I had set up on my wallet being hacked. So I had a small wallet, and it got hacked, and it really pained me. And I actually went back to zero, and there was no one I could call. There was no one I could talk to. So at that point, I felt like leaving the blockchain space, because it was really huge heat for me. And I know a lot of other people were heat around the same time. I think it was like an organized ring that was going on. I even remember Dallas rushing got hacked around the same time. So it was really bad, and there was nothing we could do. But then we got to join the EOS community, and there was the appeal that had come in from the side of governance, that you could actually have conversations with people, and you could have a recourse. For instance, if your keys were stolen, there was something you could do about it, and there was someone who could help you. And that really endeared me, and it endeared a lot of people in the community, because it's very difficult for you to invest anywhere where you can lose the investment in a flash, especially deep theft. That is why we see in parts of the world that are not stable, not receiving a lot of foreign investment, because there's a notion that if the people invest, it might not be able to materialize, or it might be taken away. And so that is a huge deterrent all over the world. And that used to stop a lot of people from joining. But with the discussions that we were having around governance, and with the conversation at the time around governance, it was very appealing. And the next big thing was that we could actually build applications that people could use. You can actually set up an application and have people using it, and that was also a huge appeal to us, because for those who were developers in the community, they were looking for something they could go into, something new, something refreshing they could try. Of course, at the time, there were all these issues with Ethereum scaling. So most of the people were looking for something else, a new way out. And then EOS came in, and it just came in at the right time for a lot of developers and a lot of people who had a lot of interest. So the community started growing. We also had a lot of people who were in it as an investment, and they were really looking forward to the airdrops from the different communities. They had started engaging different communities, and they were started to participate. The community really started to grow. It started to spiral. As you can remember, in the days of December 2017 and at the start of January, that's the time a lot of people were getting a lot of interest, even from mainstream media. So the community really got to grow at that time, and we were really happy with the reception that we got from the global EOS community. How they were able to accept people, and how they were able to engage with us at the time. So a little bit about members on the team. So we have Steve, who's running most of our infrastructure, and we also get to do some big contracts with them. We have Felix, who's in charge of operations, and Brian, who's in charge of marketing. We have Mandela, who's also in charge of community engagement. Then we also have developers who actually build and actually support the community on the different groups. For instance, we have a group called EOS Africa developers. There's about like 200 and something developers in there, mostly from Africa, who are looking to learn, who are looking to be engaged, who are looking to grow their skill, and hopefully start participating in projects and protocols such as Fellows and Wobbly, and also, of course, EOS.
Yeah. It sounds like you had a really good developer community there that you brought over. A lot of them brought over to EOS. Do you have like a common workspace, or how are you, or where's your meetup held, and how's that look?
Okay, so initially we used to meet up at this space. So this is it's a technology hub, right? So they offer meeting spaces and also offer small offices like ones you can see at the back, just small co-working spaces. And there's a lot of these co-working spaces and tech hubs that sprang up all around Africa. A lot of them are still alive and growing, and they're still doing really well. And they are able to aggregate different tech communities around. So, for instance, in some of these spaces, you'll find people who are in Python communities, the JavaScript community. There's a lot of tech communities here in Nairobi, especially, and you'll find a lot of people congregating in some of these hubs and meeting here over the weekend. And most of them also working from these spaces from time to time. So we get to meet in some of these spaces that are offered by these tech hubs around the country. Previously, or a couple of years back, Kenya experienced a lot of investment in these technology hubs. We had a lot of investment coming in from the larger technology companies from Silicon Valley, and they were able to help set up a lot of things that were able to grow the tech talent and grow the interest in computer science and related subjects.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. Actually, I heard that like some of the tech companies from Silicon Valley, like maybe Google, for example, is going to Africa and supporting technology. Is that something that you've seen, or that you've kind of that's been making a difference over there? What's the reception like? Tell me a little bit more about that scene.
Well, yes, we some of those companies have come in, and Africa has had some larger companies that have grown developer communities here. For instance, there's a company called Andela that recently received some really huge funding. So that one has been a really huge driver for technology talent. It really trained a lot of people across the continent, and that also makes Africa a good playing field, or a good ground for really good talent, because they train world-class developers to participate. So in some of the projects that we've been able to do, we've been able to have some of the graduates from that program participate, and they've been really, really helpful and really engaging in what they're doing, because the talent is really good. Also, to speak on the same point of hubs, there's a really interesting book by a gentleman called Bart Cattell. He's also a member of the community. So I got to read his book. It's called Techies, Trust and Trillionaires. It's written for the use case of blockchain in Africa and how blockchain can be used to grow the continent. And that book has really changed my perspective and a lot of the perspective of people that I work with every day in the community. And it's really interesting how he says that brains are going to be the next big export product for Africa. And that's going to be helped by the fact that we can do seamless peer-to-peer transfer of cash and value across a good blockchain network like EOS, right? So you have people who actually contribute their skills, effort, and time to people all over the world who may need it, and they get back the value directly transferred to them. So I agree with this point. His book is really revolutionary. It has changed a lot of what I used to think before and what I used to think previously, or how I used to think crypto and blockchain would work. So that's a really good book. I think I'll share some of those links later.
Yeah, we if you want at the end, send me that in Telegram. I'll put the name of that book in the show notes so that people can look at it if they'd like. That it's something I've touched on in a lot of my podcasts is that, but the brilliant way to put it is the human potential that has been kind of on an island in Africa almost, where because there wasn't a way for all this human potential to get out because it wasn't not connected really well through like the banking industry, and this kind of some of the infrastructure isn't connecting all this human potential there. But what something like EOS does, like you're saying, this peer-to-peer releases this massive amount of brain power into the globe, and it could possibly just have such a huge effect. So it's exciting. That's one of the things that I always talk about that I'm most excited for is like unlocking all this human potential through the blockchain. So
and you can think about it like this, right? So I like how you put it with the analogy of being on an island, because I think that's probably how it feels we're here. I think even the different events that you're able to participate in, most of them we were not able to participate in because of travel restrictions and the like. But that's beside the point. A good analogy to also think about how a good technology like EOS could work for this place is to think about EOS itself, or the EOS token, as a visa for your money, right? So you can transfer your cash anywhere in the world, and there's no people to say we can't accept it, or we will accept it, or we won't accept it, right? So it's like a visa. It can do anything. So you can actually participate in a lot of things that you may want to participate that you would have otherwise been locked out of. And I think that's where this space is evolving into, where more and more people realize that they can participate with the cash value that they have all over the world, and it brings back more and it generates more. But there's also the downside potential it being lost when not used prudently.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's developing quickly. I mean, and even just technology in general, aside from the blockchain, is really connecting people all around the globe that haven't connected up before. I mean, this Zoom chat right here is such a cool example of, I think back like 10 years ago, there was no chance of me necessarily meeting or hanging out with you while you're in Nairobi and I'm over, in California. But just, tech has evolved to this point where these pathways and these doors are opening up between people across the globe, and it's so exciting to be a part of. And then you tag EOS on top of that, so now the money and the human value can move seamlessly as well. Very, very exciting times, man. Very cool.
Really excited.
So your team is running meetups. You're and working with developers, and sounds like bringing some developers over from ETH, and it sounds like there's some kind of tech hubs in Africa. What would you say like the biggest tech hubs are? Is Nairobi one of the biggest tech hubs, and what are some other ones in Africa?
Okay, so right, so tech hubs in Africa had really started picking up around the time when the social media had started booming, like a social media site had started going. And it was around 2008, 2009, heading all the way up into 2015 that most of them were actually doing quite well. A lot of them were surviving on funding, sponsorship funding. But then at the point, some of that sponsorship funding started running out, and most of them converted from the community spaces into co-working spaces, but still retain an element of community in the. So for some of them, you'd get an opportunity to attend some events, like they open it up for some events, really subsidize the price for communities that want to participate, subsidize the price for people who want to work from those spaces and share knowledge with one another. So there's a lot of them in Africa. I would say there's some in Nairobi, here where I am. I have not been to Nigeria, South Africa, or Egypt, but from what I agreed and my interactions with people from within the community who are from those parts of the world, is that the technology hubs there are also growing, and they are tapping into this young talent that is within Africa, because there's a really, really useful population here. I think it's about 6% that's under the age of 25. So that's a lot of young people, and it's a lot of useful capacity that could go into building amazing things if it's directed in the right way.
Do you think there's a lot of young people in Africa kind of looking at computers and developing? Do you think there's more people in Africa interested in, tech?
Well, Africa has rather made up of really complex systems. So it will be really tough to comment on that one accurately. However, I know that there's been a growing interest in all this technology that is taking place here. There's a lot of startups that have been launching around, and definitely people can use technology and want to create solutions like the ones they use. So you find a lot of people who want to build something like whatever they use every day and add some bit of African flavor to it. But a big great limiter for all that, and this is also something we have experienced within EOS in our community here in Africa, is skills as the biggest regulator, right? So there's a huge desire to build dApps and participate and to develop solutions that we can even see like low-hanging fruit solutions, right? But the challenge comes in when now there's no adequate skill for the development of the solutions, all right? And that's why we have just a few companies that are out here. Whereas it was our expectation within the community as well to have a whole lot of applications just starting the EOS ecosystem. But I also realized that there's a role that patience plays, and there's a role that giving time to learning plays, and also there's a role for support that plays. And with time, we get to start seeing amazing projects that are being refined, like Ubuntu Energy. We can get to start seeing some really cool projects just coming out, ones that have been able to break through the learning curves and the knowledge barriers, coming out and building very worthwhile projects that are supporting the societies here and also being beneficial to the teams that are building them. So there is some growing interest, but there's that gap, there's that skill gap that people are trying to fill.
Yeah, I got to talk with Ubuntu Energy recently. I think maybe just a couple of weeks ago. That's a really cool project. Have you guys? Does your team work with them? Are you affiliated, or do you know their team?
Yeah. We know their team really well. I think even a part of their team is a major part of our community. Right, so they met on the virtual hackathon with some of the engineers from Nairobi, and the relationship kicked off from there, and they've been building ever since. So that's one team we're really proud to support and proud to grow and proud to advance, and we are really looking forward to it actually providing the solution that we wanted. We want something tangible on the ground that we can show the world. You know what? This entire project is running on EOS, and it's profitable to the people of the society and it's beneficial to everyone who's participating. That's one of the things we're looking forward to achieving. Hopefully, it will be something we get to see as we get to the close of the year, maybe. But I'm coordinating with Vital and the team to see what can be done. What are the ideas we can generate? And I think, just as they said during their podcast, that they're looking for support. Anyone who's available to participate in this amazing journey of creating an energy infrastructure for Africa, because there's none in some really developed economies. There's virtually no grid. I understand this is a really foreign thing for some parts of the world that do not get to experience power outages. But yeah, power outages are a reality, and there's enough science, there's enough knowledge in the world to get rid of some of these problems. And I think we are getting there slowly. We just need to support really good entrepreneurs like Vital to get them to do these solutions for people.
Yeah, that one's a big. I mean, that sounds like a big low-hanging fruit. Is just getting consistent power to places would be a big shift. So I think that's a really cool project. For EOS Nairobi, what's your guys' node look like? And you mentioned your infrastructure earlier. Are you? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Okay. So we set up the infrastructure. Initially, we had started out on the cloud when we were learning how to set up and how to manage and how to just create processes for how we are going to work with the node in case of failures. What do we do in case this happens? What do we do? So that was way at the beginning. So then we got to get like bare metal servers that were set up, and we got a really good data center with helping us manage them, and with a really good policy on how they manage redundancy and power outage and all that. And that was really key for us, because we really wanted to participate in a big way with the rest of the world in EOS, and we wanted to perform at a really good level. So it's been a really huge investment that we've made, so that we're able to support the network, and we are able to have an actual node on this side of the continent, even for the purposes of just inspiring people to get started, and start learning and start participating within EOS, and knowing that they can always reach out, send a message, ask questions, and they'll get help.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, I've seen a lot of the top block producers are now are starting to make that transition to bare metal. It sounds like people were wanting to wanting to watch how much basically infrastructure they were going to need before they actually put the investment into buying it. And so you guys have kind of watched for a while and probably got some rewards as well, of course, and then put that into the infrastructure. So it's nice to see it consistently improving like that. And you are a mainnet block producer. You're also doing Telos, and so let's talk about Telos. What do you think of some of the interesting parts of Telos are? What do you like about that chain?
Well, there's a lot of interesting things about Telos, but the most important thing is its community, and most especially the support that the block producers that are in there offer, right? So there's a lot of support that is coming from them, and what we're trying to do here is to build an app that can get this support while it's still hot, Right now, there's a lot of people within Telos who are building. There's also a lot of people who are expecting to see dApps coming online. So we're really working hard to see what we can add onto Telos. The project we are working on called EOS Witness. And this is one of the projects we thought of actually deploying on Telos because of the RAM prices in there, and the support that we would get, overall support that we would get. and it's something that we're really pushing, and hopefully going to get it in there. Of various variants of it, because where the application is developed, it can be morphed into several different things to support different use cases. So there's a version of it we want to deploy on Telos. Hopefully, once it's ready, we'll be able to have it on there.
Nice. So did you say you have a DApp that you guys are working on?
Yeah, we have the app we are working on, but it's still in beta.
Okay.
I think, I'll share the link with you once it's ready, but I can share it with you after the call just for testing purposes. It's like on a private beta. You can test it, I think, after the call, but then we'll be able to release it out to the public later on.
Okay, cool. Well, we'll have you back on the show at some point when you're ready to talk about your DApp. So.
Oh yeah, I'd be happy to. Yeah.
And then your team also was asked to be a Warbly block producer, I believe. What's your take on Warbly? What do you like about that chain, and how's that all going?
Well, since it's really finance heavy, right? Mm-hmm. We were drawn into it because of the potential of what we could connect it to here in Africa, right? So they had the KYC figured out, and they had actually almost everything we would need to run any type of fintech app and not get like some negative backlash from regulators here and around because of not covering some of those parts of the law. So we had actually thought of connecting them to one of these scammers. As I mentioned earlier, scammers are really huge and they really grow to become very big. So it is our hope that we can still make that connection once we're able to establish all the little bits and pieces that we need, because there's also coordination on the ground with the regulator and the law here. So once that one kicks off, I think it's something that can grow into a tiny financial institution and start growing. And I think that's a big advantage that Warbly has. So on top of supporting it, we also hope to contribute by having financial transactions running on it from here in Africa.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what Warbly is one of those really interesting experiments because of the possibility of on-ramping fiat currency from all over the globe, because that's one of the main things that slows EOS, part of the EOS adoption down. One of the bottlenecks is just getting money into EOS. It could be a big one as well. How do you what do you use to get money into EOS? How would you, if you were to try to buy EOS, how do you do that personally?
Well, so it's quite a long process, somewhat. So it's the guy starts at local Bitcoin. That's the only way to get in cash into crypto from this part of the world. I think recently Binance opened up credit cards. So we are yet to see how that one is going to go, because they also have a local Binance in a neighboring country called Binance Uganda. Mm-hmm. So we are looking at that one and trying to see how that is going to play out. But for you to get crypto into EOS or other fiat into EOS, the journey starts at local Bitcoin. So you go into local Bitcoin and you find a dealer who's selling at a reasonable price that you can afford. Then after you secure a dealer, then the next thing is to load up your cash. There's a mobile money wallet called M-Pesa. Yeah, so you load up cash on the M-Pesa. So you go to a merchant and you give them the fiat, and they give you this digital version of the currency. Then now you can use that to transfer to the merchant, and then the guy can send you Bitcoin in your Bitcoin wallet, which you can then transfer onto an exchange, Binance, BitX for those who have. And then from there now you can get to buy EOS from the exchange. Then you move the EOS from the exchange to your wallet. It's a really heavy process. Hopefully, we are able to figure out how to make it seamless and easier, just to get it directly into the wallet. But I think with solutions that projects such as Wobbly are looking to offer, like the fiat on off-ramp, that's going to be really cool, and a simple integration would allow wallets to allow people to just buy directly. So it's just a one-click purchase. It's the same way you would purchase stuff on Amazon or the like. So you'd be able to have people selling there.
Yeah. Well, can you tell me about you said M-Pesa? Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
What is that? It's probably not blockchain, I wouldn't think. Or what is that?
No. No, it's not blockchain. So it's a mobile money wallet provided by a telco here in Kenya. The telco is called Safaricom. So it started back in 2007, 2008, when they discovered that a lot of people who lived in the cities used to send cash back home with the little buses that go back to the villages. So if you'd make your salary, you'd take a small piece of it and then you put it in an envelope, then you give it to the driver or give it to the person running the vehicle. Then they'd take it all the way to the village. Then from the village, you'd ensure that your family members go and pick it up where the bus stops. So as you may already have seen from that model, it was a bit flawed because a lot of people could lose cash in the process. But then now they had started this, we call them credit card systems. So it's a prepaid card that you purchase and you load up airtime into your phone that you can use to communicate, right? So people started using these airtime vouchers as currency. So they would buy the airtime voucher, and instead of shipping out cash, they would ship out the voucher or the voucher number. Then on the other side, the person would go with the voucher number and sell it to a shopkeeper and get fiat for it. So all this, they start looking like simple, like it starts looking like a true experience sort of. Then now they opened up a facility where you could directly send, or rather you could share part of your airtime or part of your minutes with someone else. So people started using that as currency. They started sending minutes across, and then with those minutes you'd go to a shopkeeper and retail them for a lower price, and then we give them fiat for that. So once that was noticed, then I think it was a pretty obvious move to just open it up and create like an actual currency on it. So I think in the first year they got 1 million people to subscribe and to start using the service. And it has been growing ever since, and it now covers about 50% of the adult population, I think, who use the service.
Is it still backed by the ability to use the currency for phone minutes?
Okay, so no, they took that one out, and even the people now finally got what they wanted. They wanted a digital peer-to-peer cash, right? Something they could send between themselves. So of course there's fees on it, and of course it does not run on blockchain. However, it serves its purpose and it's very beneficial to the people here.
Yeah, that's what an intriguing story. I mean, it makes sense when there's the minutes that are there, kind of, and then it's such a big step in confidence in the money that they can remove kind of the minutes backing it, and it's just now basically it's just a ledger without a blockchain. It's just a ledger of the transactions, but that all it takes really is the trust of the community or the belief in it for that to be a viable solution. And initially that trust is built up with something backing it that's tangible, but then once a trust is built up, you can actually take the tangible backing out and it'll continue to run. I mean, I guess that's kind of the story of money since the beginning of time, isn't it? So Man, that's cool to see.
And I think from that experience is how a lot of people here in Kenya have been able to really understand crypto very easily and understand how EOS works, how Bitcoin works, and able to purchase it, and they're able to understand, right, how to use it and what it's used for. So I think that initial experience is what makes adoption in Africa quite easy.
Yeah, what the cool part of that equation when you think about EOS is that EOS will always have the utility backing it up because of the CPU and the RAM power that's almost like it could be a good analogy would be the cell phone minutes. There's this data, this ability to transfer data that's backing up the transaction. In EOS's case, that will remain consistent as dApps and things are built upon it. It'll always have that kind of underlying value. Wow. Yeah. Cool.
I agree with you. That's a really good correlation you brought up. I had not thought about it that way.
I've heard the story of the of how that came to be. I hadn't really heard the entire story before, so that's really cool. That's why I do the podcast. I love learning and talking to people, learning cool shit. So that was a good one. Thank you. Yeah. So that came off of kind of the Warbly discussion and Telos discussion. Is there any other sister chains or side chains that you're interested in or have any ideas about or opinions?
Okay, so we are also involved in a couple of other sister chains. And the reason why we do this is so that we can expose our community to these chains and have conversations starting between people of these different communities, right? Mm-hmm. So, for instance, have the guys at EOS Force start teaching the developers here in Africa how to build dApps, right? Have guys on board start teaching something new or start engaging or find good projects they can support. And basically, we've been opening up the path or the road for people within our community to just connect themselves to other teams and start participating themselves and find co-founders, find people you can participate with on teams, get to know people, get to work with other people from other parts of the world. I think Ubuntu is one of those projects or one of those teams that exemplifies this idea where you can get into the space and find co-founders from another part of the world and start building something amazing together, and that's the hope that we have for our community. That's what we want to keep encouraging.
Yeah, definitely. I know that Meet One has a sister chain that popped up, and they're kind of a community. They encourage community and all of that as well. So there's I mean, I like the idea of many sister chains and side chains all kind of in one big ecosystem, all feeding off of each other and leaning on the EOS mainnet with inter-blockchain communication. I like that kind of bigger vision for the future of EOS. So.
Oh yes.
Yeah, we'll see how that develops. So it looks like is there anything we've talked about? I'll kind of recap the things that we've talked about and then give you a chance to add anything maybe about EOS Nairobi that we've missed. But you're doing the community building. EOS Nairobi is bringing developers into the ecosystem. We talked about Telos and Warbly, the side chains and sister chains, and your infrastructure. You've gone to bare metal. So quite a lot we covered there. Is there anything that we glossed over the EOS Nairobi that you'd like to mention about what you guys are doing?
I think one of the biggest things we are doing is the learning. So we have a community of a lot of the developers in our community are people who are starting out, right? And I can attest to this because university degrees that we receive do not give us really up-to-date content. So it becomes really difficult for people to participate in development and in building some serious applications. And that's why some alternative institutions like Andela do really, really well, because they are able to provide developers with some really up-to-date content that allows them to participate with the rest of people in the world. So we are starting a program for these developers who are starting out, and what we want to answer are the most important questions that developers who are starting out have, right? And we are not going to be the ones who are going to be answering those questions. We are connecting to dApps and projects out there that can answer at least one question that comes from the people in the community. So how should a proper environment be set up? You know, how what tools do you use? You know, what's the best practice? What's the best practice for me to employ when I'm starting to learn how to build these apps? What resources should I look into? What do you recommend the process flow or the path that I should follow? Because we always have these questions all over the internet, and we have people asking, what should they do, computer science, or should they do software engineering? And a lot of people are stuck on where to start, right? And that's the role that advice plays, because you're able to be guided, that you do not waste a lot of time and do not go through experiences that can make you fall off, you know, and just give up on it entirely. So hopefully this will be really beneficial to the guys starting out. We also feel that it will be beneficial also to our community and also to ourselves, because we will be able to answer some of the most important questions that developers have, you know, for when they're starting projects. So if you'd be interested in collaborating or in participating in any particular way, and this also goes out to you, man. If you're interested in working with us to answer some of these questions, to get some of those developers who are starting out to understand and to know how they can get started and start building the best practices are in the life there, we welcome you to start the conversation over at our community group, or you can just message me directly, Daniel Kimotho. You can message anyone who's from EOS Nairobi, and we'll get up and we'll organize and we'll see how best we can handle that as a project, right? So I think that's what I feel is going to be a really huge contribution to the ecosystem, because you get to bring a lot of fresh ideas that were just waiting on the sidelines because they could not execute. And some of the developers who are really good are really busy right now. They're really engaged in some huge projects, and it's difficult for them to stop what they're doing and work with you to build your idea, to test out the idea. So it's always good if people can build things on their own, and that's what we want to enable. We want to enable self-reliance, people start building things on their own.
Yeah, so it sounds you're lowering the barrier to entry for someone who wants to get into EOS. That's fantastic, because each of those, you know, each time you make the UX easier, another person's going to make it through. So that's a great service there. If I was a new EOS developer or a new developer looking into EOS, where would you?
Yeah.
It sounds like you're saying that online that there's that you guys are making this happen or making it easier for people. Where would you point people? Where's the first spot they should go to get started?
Well, so currently right now what we are doing is we are putting together the questions, right? And we are also setting up or scheduling time with some of these experienced teams and experienced developers who can help out with this question. So a lot of this question and answer happens at the EOS Africa developer community group, but we would want to have it span the different groups that we have. So EOS Africa and also in the EOS Nairobi community group. But I think once the entire project is ready, we're going to release a meeting post announcing what we're doing. And we feel that this contribution will be valuable to fellows, valuable to people who want to build on Wobbly, or in fact, just the entire ecosystem. You know, when we have people who can just join and start trying out, you get an extra mind in the game.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's great. That's great. Well, we'll talk more about that. I'd like to stay in touch and see how that's coming along. You mentioned computer science and engineering. There's this kind of thought model called just in time information versus just in case information, and it sounds like what you're talking about there with like it happens here too. People go to school and they get all this just in case information. You go to 4 years of college. I got an economics degree. And you go through and you get all this information just in case you ever need it, and you pack it all in the bag. Who cares? Like, it never, it's not useful. It's just in case. Whereas like, and that sounds like kind of some people come out with a computer science degree, and they say that I have a bunch of just in case information. Whereas what's starting to be more relevant is just in time information. Like, I need to know this now or tomorrow. And that's the engineering world. I need to learn this now. I need to do this tomorrow. I need information from EOS Nairobi about how to solve this problem just in time. To me, this is kind of a information revolution where just in time information is so much more important than just in case information now, and it's changing the way that people learn. And so you guys are providing that just-in-time information for EOS engineers. That's fantastic.
It's actually a platform we're going to create. So I think we'll get other people to also participate. But it's a community effort. Like, it's people from various other places who are also helping us.
That's cool. Well, we should collaborate a little bit on that, because in San Francisco we have a workspace where we have weekend EOS hacker groups where they come in and they share ideas on how to build stuff. We had a couple of the EOS San Francisco hackathon winners were from our weekend groups, and then we've got a little community with developers. So maybe we can share resources and share ideas as far as getting people that information out there.
Wow, that's amazing. I'd be happy to collaborate and work with you, man.
Cool. Well, we will be in touch as far as that goes. All right. Well, it was great having you on. Do you have any, as we wind down here, you got any final thoughts or anything you'd like to say to our EOS friends out there, or any links or places you want them to go?
Okay. So I think based on a conversation I had with Rock and Holder earlier, was feeling as if the space has really been unfair, with the token price BP. I think it's across the entire ecosystem, across the entire blockchain space. So during some of the research that we were doing, there was also a crash that happened in the gaming space. I think that was it should be 1983 to 85 thereabouts, and the gaming market dipped. It moved from about $3 billion to $100 million, and it almost seemed like it was the end. But now you can see that the gaming ecosystem is north of $25 billion, and that goes to show that given time, markets do go up, do go down, they contract and they recede. But if you keep building, if you keep being in the game, it's always going to be beneficial in the end. So that's for that man who was feeling like they should exit entirely and leave. So the other one goes out to the community up there. So I think the call to vote for block producers to participate in the polls and referendum has always been there. I'll also throw my voice in to ask people to vote for their favorite block producers. Do their best to get it to 30 if they can, to vote for the referendum and to participate in the polls. Community engagement grows the ecosystem, because when you put out your ideas in there and when you put out your thoughts, you help someone else generate another idea and you help the ecosystem grow.
Great call. So get out and rock the vote, EOS, my EOS friends. And speaking of voting, that's a good segue. I have a proxy. It's called mrhappymoney, and I'm going to put EOS Nairobi on that proxy. What I do is I interview. Yeah, absolutely. I interview awesome block producers and some not awesome block producers, and I feel them out, and then I either vote for them or not. So this is episode 61. I've been doing this since before the mainnet launch. So I know about block producers because I ask them a ton of questions. So yeah, so if you want to support the Proxy, Mr. Happy Money, and then you're supporting EOS Nairobi because they're getting a vote. They got the bare metal infrastructure. They're building community, doing big things. I like it. So
thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's the show. That was a blast, and thank you for coming. And go ahead and say farewell to the EOS listeners.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for your time. Thank you for participating as well and being part of this.
Yeah, absolutely. Cheers, my EOS friends. Till next time.
The money is not the prime asset in life. Time is, and your time is just